Welcome back to Behind the Box. Today we'd like to discuss expensive games. Why do people pay so much for these games, and what are some of the reasons that they use to justify these really high price tags? So we're going to do this by just taking you on a journey through our experiences when we've bought expensive games.
So first on our list is Robinson Crusoe. Now we bought this for £65, and nowadays that's actually not that high for a bunch of our games in our collection. But we bought this game when we only had about 10 to 15 games in our collection. So it was actually quite early on in our board gaming career, and it was a huge difference in price, because at this point our most expensive game was probably about £30.
Yeah, so 65 is over twice the price that we're used to paying.
Yeah, so it was a huge leap for us at that point. So why did we make that decision to choose a more expensive game? So at the time we were playing a lot of Flashpoint. We really liked cooperative games, but we wanted something a little bit more challenging. So we did some research and we were checking out what are good cooperative games and what are good challenging cooperative games. Robinson Crusoe just kept popping up on these lists constantly. And we did some looking online to look at videos of it, watch some reviews, watch some gameplay. We both got really excited about playing the game and ultimately decided to go ahead with it. And a big part was because of reviewers, because they showed us the type of game it could be, and it looked like it introduced a lot of stuff that we'd never experienced before. So exploring an island by using these tiles that are all shuffled up every game, different scenarios.
The event decks.
All the event decks, yeah. So everything just really stuck out to us as something that seemed really special and unique and fun. And so, yeah, we ended up taking that plunge and we played that game a bunch for the first probably year that we owned the game. We were playing it every week. So.
It was definitely worth it for us.
Oh, yeah.
The next step on our journey is Pandemic Legacy Season 1. So at this point, we'd played Pandemic, we really loved it, and we were looking for something a bit more. And Pandemic Legacy Season 1, a lot of people were saying great things about it, but they couldn't tell us everything about it because it was shrouded in secrecy. You know, there was so much that people didn't want to tell you because they didn't want to spoil it for you, and obviously you don't want to spoil it for yourself. And all that secrecy and excitement about the game really drew us in. And this was our first Legacy game. We'd never had any game that you, like, destroyed or changed as you played it.
Weird to do.
So, like, that was really thrilling for us, you know, something that we wanted to take part in. And so, for us, the £65 that we put into Pandemic Legacy Season 1 was, although not too big of a difference in price from Robinson Crusoe, it was a big difference, a jump into the unknown, I suppose you could say, because there was a lot we didn't know about the game, but we were still really excited to play it.
There were still all those recommendations, like we were seeing with Robinson Crusoe, but we didn't know hardly anything about the story and the narrative of Pandemic Legacy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely worth it for us, though. We really enjoyed it, and the fact that, you know, you're changing the board as you're playing it, and what you wind up at the end is a unique experience that only you really have. Everyone else is going to be different, so... yeah, it was definitely worth it for us to do Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and to spend that money on there. And, you know, it's these things where, you know, as you learn what you like, you start to have a bit more faith in your decisions, you know, to spend that money. You know, Robinson Crusoe, we had experienced, you know, what a price tag like that could get you in value and components and experience. So it wasn't so scary to jump into Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Yeah, it was a more comfortable transition for us at that point. The next game, our third and final game, is Project Elite. Now, we spent about £90 on this game. That included shipping. And again, why did we spend so much? For a long time, this game was actually our most expensive game.
It was, yeah.
And the reason that we got put onto this game is because we really liked Escape Curse of the Temple. This became a game that we played a ton, we played it all the time, but eventually we found that the only times we were playing it were when we were playing with brand new people to the hobby, because we had gotten, in two-player at least, just, I wouldn't say too good at it, because there's not really much skill to it, but we just had played it so much that it wasn't a challenge for us anymore. It didn't have that same excitement level that we were getting when we first started playing it. And we kept seeing Project Elite show up on, again, all these lists from these reviewers of game of the year for the year that it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we watched the playthrough from Rado. Now, this was a big signal for me that this is a game we should get, because we watched part 1. Now, usually when we watch these sort of videos, at least when we were first just getting into board games, Lindsay would fall asleep while I was watching them. You stayed awake the whole time, and then after part 1, we're like, is there more? Can we watch more? And so we watched the whole thing. And you were like, we need to get this game.
It has everything we like. You know, it had real time and dice rolling to help you make all your decisions.
And it's cooperative.
Yeah.
And the theme's really interesting. Now, the price point itself, we'll be honest, the game is not worth £90 from a production quality standpoint, because a lot of the miniatures, even though you get a lot of them and you get a lot of cards and a lot of other components, they're just not great. There's an issue, I guess, that they had. We're not entirely sure on the story, but it had a really successful Kickstarter run, but then just a lot of stuff went wrong for the production of it. And so they ended up kind of scrapping it going forward, which was ultimately why we purchased the game at the price point we did, was because we kept hearing, if you don't buy it through the website, which is the only way to buy it, unless you buy, third party, once it's sold out, you're not going to be able to get a hold of it except for at a premium. And so having you really enjoy it and me really like the look of it as well, you were the one that kind of pushed forward with that. You were like, we need to go ahead and get this game now. And so we ended up doing that because it was more you that wanted it at that point.
Yeah, it was now or never kind of feeling. You don't want to lose that opportunity. So your confidence in buying these kinds of games, it definitely grows the more you mature as a board gamer. So as you build your collection, you become more familiar with a sense of self, you know what you like and people you play with, what's going to be a hit with your group. And so you can feel more comfortable spending a bit more on a game because it's an investment for you, You're not the kind of person that just splurges on things. You're focused on what's going to really hit home for your group, your players. And so, like, for example, with Gloomhaven, we spent $110 on that. And, you spent a lot of time researching that. And when you looked on Kickstarter, when you finally backed it, you knew, like, that was going to work for us.
Yeah, so that was a big one. That kind of, like you said, all that maturing and learning about what games work for you, this looked like the type of board game that I would love and I felt you would really like, and my brother was really interested. And we missed the first Kickstarter. We backed at the second one. And I think that now is technically, excluding expansions for all of this, our most expensive game.
I think so, yeah.
But that was just because we knew what we would like and we knew what we wanted, and you get so much stuff. And that's kind of the thing with Kickstarter games, and we couldn't not talk about Kickstarter games in a game about expensive board games. This is where a lot of this comes from. There's a lot of board games that hit Kickstarter. I mean, not just sheer quantity, of which there are many, which is why a lot of people buy so many through them, but a lot of huge games. You look at any game, from Cool Mini or not, it always goes through Kickstarter, and it's a huge game full of miniatures and components and stretch goals and exclusives, and that's a big reason why people back, because a lot of hype gets built up. People are excited about the new big game on Kickstarter with all of its exclusives, and sometimes they don't even come out in retail, and if they do, it's often a long time after the Kickstarter has been fulfilled.
Yeah.
So that also leads to people wanting it now. That fear of missing out.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that they back it right now while the hype's up and everyone's talking about it and all that, really excited energies in the air around these games. Otherwise, they'll miss out and not have as much fun. And we've seen it with my brother. He backed Kingdom Death Monster, which is a huge, huge game on Kickstarter that was a couple of years ago. Yeah,
that is actually a really good example of how the price of something, the expense versus the value that you're getting from it, it's going to be different for every person.
Yeah.
So, your brother's a really good example of somebody who loves Kingdom Death Monster, and to them it's totally worth it. All the hundreds of pounds that they've put into it. It's worth it because for him, it's actually blossomed this new hobby. He creates these miniatures, he paints them, it's grown into something so much more. And so for him, it's worth it. For another person, they might not understand. They might think to themselves, for that cost, you could buy several other games. Why not do that? It's completely individual. And it's important, you know, when you're thinking about buying a really expensive game, think about, you know, what you love. Think about the people you play with. Who are you likely to play this game with? How often do you think you'll get it to the table? And you can decide for yourself, you know, is it worth it? So don't get discouraged by other people saying, you know, well, why would you spend so much money on a game? You know, if it's worth it to you, it's worth it. It's as simple as that, you know.
If you've got the money and you want the game,
yeah,
why
if you can
not?
afford it.
You know, value is a personal thing, you know. So that kind of wraps up the end of the discussion we wanted to have, a little chat here. So if there are any games that you've got in your collection that you either spent a premium on due to the game being out of print, or if it's just a game that naturally costs a lot, let us know your thoughts on having spent that money. You know, do you regret having spent so much on games, or are you happy with the purchases that you've made? I know we're happy with buying these games and many of the other expensive games that we've got here, because we just play games all the time. So, yeah, let us know down below. I'll leave links in the description to our social media as usual, but until the next one, we'll see you soon.
Bye. These really high price tags. Let me try that again. I was like, high price.
And also, your why was the same as when you go, blah, blah, blah. Why did I just say that? You went, but why do people buy them? Like, and I was like, what?
Why? Okay.
How's my hair look, by the way?